Hello there and welcome to Cannonball Diva Chronicles, where uplifting the downtrodden is our focus. I'm Cannonball Diva, and today I'd like to talk about the different conspiracy theories that have come out after the recent death of Imole, the iconic young artist who recently lost his life. Imole was a young 27-year-old musician who recently lost his life after being a member of Naira Marley's Malian group, a musical group where the producer himself, Naira Marley, was known to be very rough and has a gangster image of maltreating his prodigies or getting them involved in taking drugs and as well taking harsh treatment against them if they decided to do their own thing, which is what Imole decided to do by going solo and standing on his own 2 feet, by recording his own videos and starting his own label up. His own label, I believe, he already had a name for it. He already had an album being prepared for it as well. Imole wasn't a very noisy or show-offy person. He was quiet, calm. He had a good nature about him from the videos that have been shown on social media. Many people loved him. His music was genuine and very creative in nature. I didn't really know many of his tracks until after his death. The only one I knew was the KPK one, which I'd heard many times without even knowing him as a person or being the musician behind the music. So when he died and all of the uproar that came after his death of how he was treated by his label, it just pulled at the heartstrings of many people. And it is what is causing us now to call for justice after his untimely death. When Imole had gone to the hospital about a few weeks ago to complain that he needed some checkup, and a nurse had reportedly injected him with an unknown substance that led to his unfortunate demise, which was spoken about as being told by the 2 people who had taken him away from the hospital and surmised that he had died after the injection without actually doing a thorough check to see if he still had any kind of vital signs in him. It is quite questionable to wonder what led them to believe he had died as opposed to have fainted. Because in the healthcare profession, you know that when somebody loses their life, they are not pronounced as dead unless the thorough physical health screen is done after the person is supposedly loses their life or the person dies. You check for their vital signs, which includes the heart rate, the respirations, the heartbeat, to see if you can actually hear a heartbeat, and also the blood pressure. So these are just some of the signs and the tests that are done before someone is considered to have lost their life or passed away. And usually it takes 2 people to do the checks. It's not one person that just surmises or decides that that person has lost their life, because that person could actually have fainted or could be in a coma. And you know that when somebody is in a coma, sometimes it takes months for them to actually come back to life and to actually become conscious again. So who's to say that this young man actually died when the 2 people had taken him out of the hospital and the car just assumed he died, which then led to, the father planning for his burial that same day. Apparently from the news on social media, the father had rushed to bury him and had also asked for assistance in getting the funds to get his casket, because he said he didn't have the money to get this casket. And a very popular, well-known, internationally known musician by the name of Davido had provided $2 million to the father to purchase the coffin or the casket for Imole. At which point, it is also rumored that the father had then gone to get a child's casket because he wanted this, I believe, keep part of the money, and he saved some of that money by just buying the cheapest option of the caskets for his son, and had put him in the casket in not like a straight way, but had to bend him a little bit. I mean, it sounds really graphic, and that's yet to be proven, but these are some of the rumors that are coming out on social media that makes the father now seem like a suspect himself. These conspiracy theories are pointing to 3 main people: the father, the wife, Naira Marley, and Sammy Larry. These are 4, but Naira Marley and Sammy Larry are combined together because they work together as a team. So that's why I am saying that the three of them are being projected in social media as being the main suspects in the death of Imole Mohbad. The father rushing to bury him after knowing that his son is an internationally known star, loved by thousands, millions even, of people, seems suspicious to us, because you would think he would want his son to actually have a wakekeeping of some sort, or, I mean, different religions allow for different types of burial. The Muslim like to bury quicker than the Christians. But from what I've seen on social media, his son was a Christian. He had actually gone to give thanksgiving to God about how God was blessing his career. So that he didn't mince words when he said he was thankful to God. So he wasn't a Muslim in the eyes of the social media or society. He was a Christian. And usually Christians, we don't rush to bury someone, especially when the person is a celebrity like Imole was. Many people wanted to mourn him properly, actually see his body, and actually be able to attain and assess for themselves that he had actually passed away. So it's actually a tragic thing to think that he wasn't dead, or he was buried in a very rushed way. Why was he buried like that? Why wasn't he allowed to stay in a morgue for a week, 2 weeks, and allow people to mourn him properly? He had a wife, he had he had in-laws, he had a mother, he had people in his life that would, I believe, have preferred that. The father rushing to bury him obviously makes him, like I said, one of the suspects in this conspiracy theory. And the fact that he didn't buy the right size of coffin, apparently, or according to what the news is saying, also doesn't put him in the best light. During the interviews of his father, you would notice that he has a poker face on. He has a very bland looking face on. He doesn't seem upset. And, you know, suffice to say that many people have different methods and ways of grieving. This father didn't show any kind of emotional, you know, distraught feeling, or he didn't show any kind of affective, like, you know, feeling of being distraught over his son's death. Maybe he had had some time behind the scenes to cry or to mourn his son, and now he just was coming to tell the police or coming to tell social media or the public the story of what he believed happened. And well, at this point he had already grieved, so we could say that was the case. But for someone to lose their son at such a young and tender age, you would wonder if it just, why would the person not show emotion while the person is, you know, when you speak of someone you truly love, sometimes you can't help yourself but to cry or to shed a tear or two. It's just a natural way of expressing loss. Grieving is different for many people, like I said, you know, so we can't really put that as a way of blaming him to say he was involved in the death of his son. The second person that is being targeted in this conspiracy theory is his wife. His young wife was shown in a video on social media where Imole was accusing her of wanting to kill him. And many times he mentioned asking her if her goal was to kill him. Was she waiting for him to die before she did so and so? I mean, this video was in Yoruba, so with my limited Yoruba, I mean, I was able to hear most of what he said. And he accused her of wanting him dead. And that in itself points to her as being one of the suspects, because why would he accuse her of wanting him dead and then shortly afterwards lose his life? I know that many people say things when they're angry. We all know that we've said things we didn't mean in anger. So you can also say that he was just angry, and that was his way of venting and lashing out at her when he was angry, and he really didn't mean it. And many times, you know, he would say things like this, even in his music, in his lyrics, spoke about the fact that when he's no longer in this world, what would happen? He would be in heaven, that this world wasn't for him. I mean, so many things to do with death were involved in his music, as well as so many things involving people being wicked in the world and coming after him. So his music spoke about, you know, those that he thought were after him, but without calling names. And this was, I believe, a cry out for help. And even though he had also told the police many times that Naira Marley was after his life and that they were trying to kill him, even with the video in social media that showed him crying in a car, in a vehicle, with some blood on his face. And someone in the background was actually crying alongside him, saying that they had attacked him, and look at the blood. Look at how this person had attacked Imole. The person crying wasn't shown in the video, but she was very distraught at how they had treated Imole and saying they had been so violent with him and caused him to bleed. Imole at that point wasn't saying anything. There's a video also on social media showing Imole crying that he had been given something to drink, and nobody else there had been given that same substance to drink. So before the unfortunate death of this young uprising star, he had cried out many, many times for help. And you know, many people probably thought he was making this thing up or he was being overly dramatic. It ended up causing him to lose his life, because the steps that we should have taken, or the police should have taken to save him, were not taken. There's a producer that's involved in international shows that had gotten him lined up for many shows in London, England, the UK, Greece, and was speaking on Daddy Freeze's show recently and said he was shocked at the fact that this young uprising star had lost his life, and that he had heard him speak many times about the fact that many people were after him. He didn't even want to come out in public at some point because he was afraid at what would happen if he showed himself in public. That's how afraid this young man was. And this producer, who I'm going to leave his name out, I'm not really sure of his name, but he had been on Daddy Freeze's show recently, and he talked about the fact that, you know, he was so sad at the unfortunate demise of Imole, because he had heard him complain himself, but he took it with a pinch of salt, because he never really believed that someone could be that wicked and that evil to actually take someone's life over leaving their label. And that Imole had been reassured by him when he had gone abroad to perform. He had whispered to him at some point with so much joy that he was happy. And, you know, when we watch and hear stories like this, we can only wish that, in my own way, I wish that he had actually stayed back in wherever he was, be it UK or in some of these places. They have amnesty. They have some amnesty services that can take you on and actually protect you. He didn't really have to come back to Nigeria, but the fact that he loved his country and he wanted to produce music here is quite clear in his decision to come back. You know, many people who have this threat against their life would have decided to just stay back and not return to Nigeria, but he chose to come back. And even though he was afraid and he feared for his life, he came back here, and his worst nightmare eventually ensued when he lost his life. But at this point, this case is still under investigation. And like I mentioned, the conspiracy theorists are saying that there are 3 people who could actually be to blame for his death. Naira Marley and Sammy Larry were the initial suspects, and they seem to be the most likely suspects because they were directly involved in the production of music with him, and they had been displeased that he had left the label to start his own. Many times he had also called them out and said if he lost his life, he actually mentioned Naira Marley's name, that Naira Marley should be held responsible. So after his death, there's been an uprising in our country, Nigeria, to say that these 2 people must be brought to book. They hastily left the country shortly afterwards, and they were not stopped from leaving the country, because at that point, I don't believe the news has spread enough to say they were at fault for the death of Imole, and they had been allowed to leave. And now, right now, they're out of the country, and from what I hear on social media, they're also getting their legal representation, which is the right thing to do, of course, because we are all innocent until proven guilty by the court of law. So Naira Marley and Sammy Larry, even though they are the most likely suspects, could actually be innocent at the end of the day, because now the wife is being pointed at as being another suspect, especially with the fact that she has a young son that people are saying does not look like Mohbad, that this son looks more like Sammy Larry. From looking at the pictures of this young handsome boy, I mean, you could say that he might not look exactly like his dad, Mohbad, who never ever disclosed anything about being suspicious about the fatherhood of this boy. He always accepted him as his son. He never mentioned anything about not being sure. and this boy being light-skinned, I believe could also be said that he looks like the wife. The wife of Mohbad is not really dark-skinned. So who's to say that the son just looks more like the wife? But looking at the picture of Sammy Larry, you could also say that, yes, there's some resemblance there. But only a DNA test can prove who the father is. Recently, in one of the social media blogs, the social media, I guess the person on the social media had mentioned that there's a producer of an African show, of an African channel, who is offering 10 million naira to this mother, to Mohbad's wife, to do a DNA test. And if the DNA test proves that Mohbad is the father of the son, he will give her the 10 million naira. And if it proves that, DNA test proves that this son is not for Mohbad, then it would show many Nigerians, or many men in Nigeria, how women can be very treacherous in their behavior or their attitude towards their relationships with them. I guess he's doing all of this to show that women can be really trusted, and that he believes that Mohbad's wife could have a hand in the death of this young uprising star. That is another conspiracy theory. So there are three of them. The one that believes that Naira Marley and Sammy Larry are to blame, and that Sammy Larry probably had a bone of contention against Mohbad for whatever reason, whether it be, I guess, to do with work-related misunderstandings, or maybe relationship understandings, if he did have anything to do with that baby being born that looks like him, or that the wife herself had something to do with having an illicit affair, and Mohbad had threatened her and spoken to her many times about the fact that he believed she was trying to take his life, or that the father had a hand in it. So these are the three theories that we're hearing now on social media. The only thing that can really tell at the end of the day is doing a thorough investigation. And I hope that in Nigeria, we have enough officials who can actually bring the truth to light, because sometimes corruption takes ahead and takes control. And we hope that this is not swept under the rug, that the right suspect is apprehended and brought to book. Justice must be served for this young man. He cried and cried, both literally and figuratively. He cried and cried for help. And to see that after all of his crying and all of his anguish, he even fell into depression before he died. And apparently, there's a story that says he tried to even kill himself. Like, he was so sad. He couldn't sit still. He was always looking behind his shoulder. Why? Why would we do that to our own when we know that this person is a talented person? Once a carpenter pulled himself from the dust, pulled himself up and tried to make something of himself. His reward should not be to kill him. His reward should be to applaud, to celebrate, and to help him attain his goals as people, not to destroy his life. If we keep destroying the lives of people who are up and coming, what does that say of us as a people? That we don't like progress? That we don't like to see people do well? The Bible tells us to do unto others as we want to be done unto us. So if you feel a prick of a needle on your hand or in part of your body and it hurts, why would you want to destroy somebody? Why would you want to hit somebody or prick somebody with that same needle when you know it hurts you? Like, putting yourself in other people's shoes is a way of showing empathy. And this downtrodden ideology of stepping on other people when they're trying to rise up, of destroying their lives when they're trying to rise up, is what I'm so against in this channel. I try to bring to light as much as possible those who are downtrodden. I believe that Mohbad was downtrodden. He was literally downtrodden. They stepped on his career, they stepped on his creativity, they stepped on everything that seemed good in his career to stop him from soaring like an eagle and attaining great heights of fame and success. That is what would have occurred if they had let this young man soar. He would have soared. And, the devil only comes to kill, to steal, and destroy. And whoever is responsible for the death of this young man, if it was edged on or caused by jealousy or envy, that person to me is tantamount to being the devil. Because you don't have to have a fang and horns to be a devil. Some people are walking this earth and are actually agents of Satan. They're just here to kill, to steal, and destroy people's lives. I hope and pray, fervently pray, that the right people are apprehended and brought to justice, because there must be justice for Mohbad Imole. This is something that I'm fervently praying about. Justice must be served. Please share your thoughts about these conspiracy theories that I mentioned. If you have any other theories that you want to add, please feel free to add it in the comment section. And please like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for tuning to Cannonball Diva Chronicles. Please remember to stay safe and take care of yourselves out there. Bye.
Soundstripe.